Greetings, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about controlled opposition, and I want to make a disclaimer. This is not geared toward any specific person or specific entity or group of people. It's simply to share what I know about controlled opposition. So controlled opposition can come in many forms, and oftentimes people that are involved in controlled opposition are not aware that they are involved. Controlled opposition might come in a news story. It might be a person that is hired by an ABC agency to disseminate disinformation, or I don't even like that word, honestly, but to disseminate specific information in order to control information given to the masses. It can also look like a narcissist whom is simply just trying to divide people, because the goal of controlled opposition is, one, to divide, and also just to control a narrative, to control information that people are given. So again, a lot of times people that are controlled opposition, they're unaware, because a lot of times how controlled opposition will work is it happens in layers. It's just like the military, how people might be working on a mission and they're not allowed to know about something at one level. It might be called, it's a need-to-know basis, but essentially what's going on, and it's very much like mind control, is that is how the information is controlled, by not letting everyone know what is going on. And it allows secrecy of whatever it is happening. So controlled opposition, again, is to divide. And also, a lot of times if you have a social movement going on throughout, it could be the United States, it really could be anywhere. I would suggest reading the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That book was advised for me to read by a friend. It's a very good book, very sad book, but it really kind of explains when either government officials or entities working for government want to go in and control a narrative or change how things turn out. That's how they organize it. Controlled opposition might be sent out if, let's say, there's some type of social movement going on. I think about that whole, I can't think of the name of it right now, but there was a movement a few years ago over on Wall Street. You guys remember that, when people were camping out at Wall Street? I forgot what it was called. But eventually the evil ones did break it up. And of course it wasn't really practical. I mean, a lot of times people have good intentions, but sometimes how they go about doing things are not real practical. So how you might notice controlled opposition is they're spewing out a narrative or a story on repeat. Like a lot of times you might see it on a news station or what they call what the YouTube influencers, they call them influencers for a reason. And again, a lot of times people are not even aware that they are. So, too, you think about cults, one of the biggest control mechanisms of a cult is controlling the information. But that goes to a lot of things that are going on throughout society, as if if you think in a different way, if you got any kind of autonomy in thought, you're an enemy, you're evil. So you might be tipped off about controlled opposition when you see people denigrating and degrading certain human beings because they think a different way. It's really straight up to make free thinkers or other people that have maybe a different mindset the enemy. Maybe the enemy of the day is farmers. Maybe farmers are trying to fight back against all the regulation. So then now we're going to see a bunch of stories thrown out through society, social media, that all are the same. They say the same thing. There's narratives I could talk about, but I know that would cause some type of a YouTube strike, so I won't mention certain subjects. And to me, it's amazing how so many people cannot see the patterns. I mean, it doesn't take that much of a discerning eye or a discerning mind to see the patterns of the controlled opposition stories. And they always go along with the same thing. Oftentimes you might see like a famous person or maybe a politician or a friend of a politician up on a podium spewing some narrative like the day after a tragedy. Because that's when everybody is real emotional about things, and then they can insert whatever program or agenda that they want. So controlled opposition, basically, it's a generic term that I'm using here, but it's always very manipulative, and it wants to, if it had a mind of its own, let's just say it had its own mind. The goal of a controlled opposition narrative is to control how other people think. Because at the end of the day, it's all about control. And it's diabolical what a lot of entities throughout the world want to enable and do to people, basically. However, now, if you had, let's just say you have a person that's more narcissistic in nature, one thing that narcissists like to do is to triangulate. And that basically means turn people against each other. It doesn't mean if a person has their own observations and thoughts about someone or something, that's different. But when a person takes it really far and starts telling other people, well, you don't need to hang around that person, or you don't need to talk to that person, or we need to boycott that person, or whatever it is, that is out to harm people. So that's why when you see narcissistic people doing things like this, it's very similar to controlled opposition. And they might be a controlled opposition agent, it's possible. But sometimes people are mirroring and doing the same things that controlled opposition does. There was an example of this I saw on social media yesterday. It was actually really disappointing to see this very highly educated, for the most part intellectual, smart person babbling off one of the uh what do you say? Well, I guess you could call it a controlled opposition title. I'm not going to say it here because it's just too volatile at this point, and I've decided to remove myself from those kinds of discussions because it's a lost cause. It's a lost cause that certain people are spewing off certain narratives and agendas without really having done a lot of research and trying to label people as a cult and all kinds of things. But again, too, that's like in generic terms, that's how controlled opposition works. And to me, it was just sad to see this highly educated, very intellectual person spewing off some garbage that was not founded, and she was just going along with the like a little bird chirping what the Illuminatzas want. You know what I mean? So controlled opposition could be maybe ABC agencies going into other countries and doing a coup or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the controlled opposition that the everyday person is going to see is either going to be on news stories, printed in social media. They really are good for using social media. And it's all about controlling your mind and how you think. And you just have to have enough discernment and strength to make your own mind and to make your own decisions. You don't even have to speak publicly about the things you think. It's not even necessary. And one thing that I've learned, because I've been researching a long time and I don't know everything. Like, I don't know everything about science. I'm just starting to research a little bit about space. I find it kind of interesting. And there's subjects that I'm not as strong in, and then there's subjects I'm strong in. And it's always good for each person to know what their strengths and weaknesses are. But where is I going with this? Anytime certain individuals are like really working hard to influence how you think, or they're berating certain individuals, or they're berating people without any kind of receipts, or it's just like this nonstop campaign to put a person down. Or now, I don't mean like when there's actual evidence to show something really happened. You know, not like me, I care about children. I try to bring out information that's already founded and factual information on the child abuse happening in real time in Scientology and other cults. That's different because I'm advocating for children. But I don't know how to explain this anymore. But basically how controlled opposition works is it's covert. It's like under the dark where people don't necessarily realize that it's controlled opposition, I mean. If you see, I'm trying to speak in code. If you see certain events happening all over the United States that are almost cookie cutter the same, and you're going to fall hook, line, and sinker for the things that these people are telling you, especially if you look very closely, you'll see that the stories are scripted. You should really think twice about just going along with what people are telling you, especially when they say it's for your safety. Tell you one thing, you hear that, you should run, because really it's inverted, and it's not for your safety, it's for your harm. And when I first started learning about what was going on in the world, like really, 2013 is when I really started learning. I always had an idea, but I just never knew how bad things were. I wanted to like scream at the world and tell everyone, And probably out of the people I would try to tell, 99.9% people wouldn't listen. So it just got to be me expelling way too much of my mental energy to try to help and save people that didn't want to be saved. Or maybe that's arrogant for me to say be saved, but I mean, even with the last 4 years, I can't talk about it. But in that case, yes, I was trying to save people's lives. But it's that old saying, what is that? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But I can damn sure bet a lot of people now are rethinking things in seeing all the things going on with P. Diddy. And I'm not going to go into that. It's just, I mean, I know what I think should happen to Diddy. I made a video the other day and I took it down because I thought that'll get a strike or maybe my channel taken down. But you guys can kind of guess where I think that guy should go, especially after hearing about the child. And you guys know there'll be more. So, the whole 10 years ago, if you told people that Satanists run the world, they would have been like, oh, you're one of those conspiracy theorists. Well, who's paranoid now? It's all coming out. So I do hope this is helpful. I was trying to explain it. It's like kind of vague. You guys know I can't say everything. They don't allow us to do that. And I don't even like using the word allow, but I don't want problems. So I'm just trying to speak in generic terms. So that's about it. I hope it was helpful. I may be reading chapter 8 of Nathan Rich book today. I'm not sure. But anyhow, have a good day or good night wherever you are. Peace.